Hello everyone, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, fine. So we'll start. So fine, guys. Anyone who can tell me like what we have discussed last class? Any one of you? Okay. Okay, fine. So abstraction, inheritance. Good afternoon. We have covered till overridden method, inheritance, abstraction. Okay, fine, guys. Got it. By the way, I remember those things, but yeah, just for the confirmation. Okay, so 2.2. Okay, fine, guys. So in today's class again, so we are going to start from the same point. So wherever we have left. So I think we talked about like a OOPS concept. I think we talked about like object classes. Many of you, I found out that you are quite comfortable with all of those things, and many of you have already practiced as well, and you have asked a valid question even in your doubt clean session. Now, so I think we are clear on this particular part. Now, what we are going to do is, so we are going to talk about one more concept, and that is called as a encapsulation. So first of all, we will try to understand an idea behind an encapsulation. So what is the idea behind encapsulation, and in which cases we are supposed to use it, and a different kind of I would say like a kind of an implementation of these things, and then polymorphism we are going to talk about, and I think after that we will be clear on this part. So see what happens in case of encapsulation is, so again encapsulation is a very generic things whenever we talk about OOPS programming concept. So encapsulation is nothing new, I would say, in OOPS programming concept. So wherever like whether it's a Java or maybe a C#, or maybe a Scala or maybe a Python, so wherever you will try to like implement this encapsulation concept, so meaning wise you are not going to find out a different meaning. Yes, implementation wise, so in terms of a syntax you will be able to find out a little bit of differences, and I think yes, there is a language differences, so for sure you will be able to find out a syntactical differences. So the whole idea behind encapsulation is to hide the implementation of a actual methods, basically. Now what is the meaning of that? So suppose if we are trying to call maybe a function like type, and we try to pass a data over here, or we are trying to call a function called as list, and then we are trying to pass a data over here, or maybe I'm trying to call some other function like map over here, and when we try to pass a function and the iterators in this particular place. Now so whenever you are trying to perform this kind of operations, so you just know that okay, so what is the input which I'm supposed to give, and what is the output I will be able to get. You just have idea about like an input and an output. So suppose if I'm going to use a type function, I don't even know that how people have written basically this type function, or how people have written this list function. I don't think that any one of you have explored it so far so forth. Or if I'm talking about a map function, so I don't even know that okay, how person has written a map function. What I do is like I try to call a map function, and then I try to fulfill the all the parameters or all the arguments as per the documentation which has been given to us. Like a map function always takes first argument as a function, and then second argument as a iterator. So we try to pass it, and we know that okay fine, so this is what a map function is going to perform. So we try to input a data, and then we try to get the output. Same thing happens everywhere, right? Same thing happens everywhere. So here in this particular way, in this particular case, basically, so we are not trying to showcase the actual implementation, or we are not trying to showcase any kind of a code which is written inside a type function or list function or maybe a map function. So what we are trying to do is we are just giving an input, and we are just able to get an output, right? So wherever you don't want to showcase the actual implementation, wherever you don't want to expose the actual implementation, wherever you wanted to treat something as a black box means, so suppose this is a black box, right? And I will just pass a input from this side, and then I will be able to get as an output. So this approach is called as a encapsulation. So we are trying to encapsulate. So how people have given this name, let's try to understand that as well. So suppose whenever I got a fever, so we try to take some tablet, or maybe we try to take some kind of a capsules, right? So we don't know that what is a composition which is available inside this capsule. So we just try to take this capsule based on the prescriptions given by a doctors, and then either it is going to cure, or maybe either it is going to act, or either it is going to react, right? But we don't even know that what is there inside this particular capsule, what is the chemical composition which people have given inside this capsule. So we just take as an input and then as an output, so either it will cure or it will not cure, right? So from here it will help you out, it will help you out to remember a concept of encapsulation, if you are able to remember this capsule concept, I would say. So encapsulation, so people have so people are trying to implement these things in such a way that the actual implementation will not be exposed to you. It will just behave like a capsule or like a black box, or you can try to take a reference from here, right? And it will try to encapsulate, or it will try to hide the actual implementation. You will be able to just give an input and you will be able to get the output, right? So this concept is called as a encapsulation. We will try to understand and we will try to implement these kind of a concept now inside a Python OOPS programming concept, right? So I think the idea of encapsulation is very much clear to all of you, right? That what is the meaning of a encapsulation, and then what we are trying to achieve in case of a encapsulation. So we will try to create a encapsulated class, and then we will try to see that whether I'm able to hide a implementation, or whether I need a implementation at the time of creating an object, or maybe at the time of calling a particular object or not. So we will try to understand how we can implement these things in our Python programming language. So fine guys, let's try to understand this encapsulation concept, right? So I'm assuming that this idea is at least clear to each and every one of you. Now, so if I will try to implement, so what I'm trying to do over here is, so I'm trying to implement these things in a very basic way. It's a very intuitive and it's very basic and the simplest possible way. So I'm trying to show you that, okay, so how encapsulation actually works. So let's try to understand this. Some of you are saying that your voice is not audible properly. Is it? Do this? Am I audible clearly? I don't think so. My voice is having some problem because my net is good. Yeah. Yes, people are saying voice is perfect. Okay, so fine. Thank you guys. Okay, so okay guys. So now someone is saying that, Sudhanshu, are you sharing your screen? Yes, I'm sharing my screen. I think my screen is visible, right? So if you are not able to see your screen, yeah, people are saying they can see my screen. Okay, fine guys. So here, see what we are trying to do. So let's try to understand it. So here I'm trying to create a classes. Now why I'm creating classes, for what purpose, how I'm trying to achieve this encapsulation concept, I will try to understand and along with you, and we'll try to explain these things to you as well. So here, so I'm trying to create three classes basically. So one class is called as a tire class. It's a simple normal class, the way we have created a class in our past sessions. So in the similar way, I'm trying to create a class like a tire class. I have created an engine class over here, and I have created a body classes. So suppose if I'm trying to build a car, right? So for sure, to build any car, so I need a tires, I need basically a engine, and I need a body. This is the bare minimum requirement to build a car basically, right? So in an actual sense, if I'm talking about, so fine, TYRES I can write over here, and then here I can write like a engine, and then here I can write maybe a body. Okay, so to build a car class, so I need actually these three things basically. Unless and until I don't have a tire information, unless and until I don't have an engine information, or unless and until I don't have a body information, I will not be able to create a car class in this particular way. So fine guys, not an issue. So one by one, I'm trying to create a separate class for a tire, separate class for an engine, and a separate class for a body. Now, so I'm trying to initialize some of the variable. So if I'm talking about a tire, so in tire, so you will be able to find out a branch, and then a belt bias, optimal pressures, and all those things, right? This is just some kind of a parameters you can say related to a tire. So fine, I'm trying to give like a branch, belted bias, and optimal pressure variable to the tire class, and then I'm trying to perform some kind of a print operation. So fine, it is going to print whenever I'll try to print an object of the tire class. So it is going to print all of those things. It's a very normal class. So we have created one class over here. That's fine. Then a second class I'm trying to create. Again, I'm doing nothing. As of now, I'm trying to do what? I'm just trying to like pass some kind of variables over here, some kind of a variable initialization, like for engine. So what is fuel type? So petrol engine or maybe a diesel engine. What is a noise label of that engine? So these are the two variables which I'm trying to define. And then I'm trying to write a simple string function. I think we all know that string function is a inbuilt function which will always try to give you just a string. And whenever you are going to call an object inside the print method, so whatever you have written inside the string, it is going to give you that as an output. Simple. So instead of giving you like a location of the object, so it will try to give you basically a print, like whatever string that you are going to return from here. So it's nothing but I'm just trying to like give all of those parameters. I'm just trying to give all those arguments over here, nothing else. So two classes I have created in this particular place. So one is a tire class which I have created in this particular place, and another one is a engine class I have created over here. Now once after creating a tire and engine class, so I'm trying to create what? So I'm trying to create a body class over here, as you can see. So I'm trying to create a third class which is a body class. Now so inside this I'm just trying to give a size of the body, simple, and then simple like a string operation. So these three classes separately we have created. These three classes separately we have created in this particular place, as you can see. And then I'm trying to create what? I'm trying to create a car class. So I have already created a tire class. Tire class is trying to take some kind of a variable, some kind of a argument. I have initialized. Then I'm trying to create like a engine class, and again engine class is trying to take like some part, I would say. And then I'm trying to like create a body class. Again, body class is trying to take like some parameters, some variables over here, right? And then after creating like a tire class, engine class, or a body class, so I'm trying to create basically what? A car class, right? So the car class I'm trying to create, and here, so I have created a variable. So tire, engine, and body. Again, so don't try to misunderstood this part. Many of you in a very first place, so try to misunderstand this particular part. So don't think that I'm trying to call this body, tire, and engine class over here. No, it's not like that. It's just a simple variable which I'm trying to create. Maybe you can try to take A, B, C, D. I don't have any kind of an issue with this one. So separately, I'm trying to create a car class. So it's nothing related to, as of now, till now, so far, so forth. So it's not related to your tire, engine, and a body class at all. So it's a separate four classes I'm trying to create: tire, engine, body, and car class. So these are the four classes which I'm going to create. It's completely fine. And then there is some local variable I'm trying to create, or like a class variable, you can say precisely. I'm trying to create for a car class, which is nothing but tire, engine, and a body. Okay, now it's fine. Now, so actual thing, encapsulation that we are talking about, basically the topic that we are talking about is like you will not be able to find out so far so forth like a concept of encapsulation in this particular place. So what is the concept of encapsulation? How I'm trying to achieve encapsulation? So now let's try to understand how I'm trying to achieve a encapsulation concept in this particular place. Okay, so let's try to understand it. So what I will do in this particular place is, so suppose if I'm trying to call a car class, so maybe I can try to create an object of a car class. So let's try to take a new tab, right? And let's suppose I'm trying to create a car class object. So car class object will be nothing but, so car, and car class is trying to take basically three parameter: tire, engine, and body. So I can try to give any kind of a things. So maybe as a tire wise, I can say like, okay, fine, so it's a black, or maybe something, some optimal pressure, something I can give. That's not a problem. Engine wise, so I can mention petrol engine, maybe petrol engine. And then maybe I can try to mention body as SUV, right? Body as a SUV. Now, if I'll try to execute it, so it's completely fine, and I will be able to print this car class as well. So print, and then it's a car class which I'm trying to print, the object of car class. Now, so whatever parameter which I was trying to give over here, so yes, it is able to print it. It's a separate class basically. I'm trying to create an object of this class, and then I'm trying to call this particular one over here. So yes, I'm able to print each and everything. I'm able to get a data basically. So if I wanted to utilize all of these variables somewhere inside a class, car class, I can use it. So I know that, okay, fine. So I can create a n number of methods and n number of functions I will be able to create inside a class, as we have already discussed in our previous classes. And then I will be able to call those methods or those functions as well, right? So suppose if I wanted to create maybe some a function, some method over here, def, and maybe I wanted to print the value, or maybe I wanted to print like a tire specification. Suppose if I have given a black as a tire, so maybe a tire specification, so TYRESPEC, right? So SPEC, tire specification. So I can try to write in this way, so self, and then maybe what I can do is, so I can try to return basically return return, and then I can try to return basically a string, or maybe I can try to return a print statement as well. So here I can try to return, so this is a spec of a tire, TYRE, tire, and plus I can try to mention self dot TYRE. So whatever specification I'm going to give, so yes, I will be able to get that data. So suppose if I'm going to call maybe a car object, so car object dot tire specification, so yes, I will be able to get it. So tire specification is the method that we have created over here. So I can try to call it in this particular place, and then I will be able to get car object has no attribute call as tire, TYRE. Okay, it's a tires basically. Okay, so TYRES. Okay, so as you can see that whenever I'm trying to call this function, so yes, along with that, so I'm able to get a tire specification without any if and but. So this is the specification for the tire, which is equal to black. I can try to give a space over here so that that will be a proper indentation. So yeah, so this is the specification for the tire, which is equal to black, which I'm trying to pass in a runtime. So that is completely fine. It's just behaving like a normal simple classes that we used to create even in our past. Nothing fancy that we are trying to achieve in this particular place. Now I will try to perform a same operation, and in terms of encapsulation, right? So in terms of same same operation in terms of, I would say, encapsulation. So how we are trying to encapsulate it? So encapsulation simply means that if somehow we are trying to hide an implementation, so if we are able to hide some kind of an implementation, so that is called as basically a encapsulation, right? Okay, so if you remember, so separate tire classes we have already created in this particular place. If you remember, so yes, separate tire classes that we have already prepared in this particular place. Now what I will do is, so I will try to, instead of passing a data of a tire class directly or tire object directly, so I will try to pass a class itself. I'll try to pass a class variable itself. That is also possible. So let's see how it works basically. So here I have created basically a tire object, right? So here I forget about tire class. What I have written inside the tire class, I don't even remember that what I have written inside my actual tire classes. I am just trying to create an object of a tire class, right? I'm just trying to create an object of the tire class over here. And then according to the initialization parameter, so whatever initialization parameter it needs, I'm just trying to pass all of these parameters in this particular place. And then what I will do is, so instead of passing data over here, right? So I can try to pass this object. I think that will be much better, right? So I can try to pass an object in this particular place. Now, so this will give me an issue because I'm trying to concatenate object with a string, and this is what I have done over here. So as of now, I'm trying to pass an object. That's the reason. So I'm able to get some kind of values in this particular place, because I was trying to pass a tire, and then I'm trying to assign these things into a tire. Maybe I can just try to return this tire. So in that way, this will be fine. Yeah. So here what I'm trying to do is, so I'm trying to pass an object of the tire. So when I'm saying that I'm trying to pass an object of the tire, so it will try to call a tire class internally. I don't even know what I have written inside a tire class. Whatever things which I have achieved over here, so it will try to consider, it will try to call it automatically, it will try to execute it automatically by hiding an implementation of a tire class. I'm not sure that what I have done over there. I'm just trying to create an object of the tire class in this particular place, and then this object I'm trying to pass. And as per, so whatever implement, see, this is something that we have written where, this is something that we have written inside a string of a tire class. Basically, this is something that we have written over there, right? But it is, so if you remember, so branch belted bias optimal pressure, hopefully you don't remember anything, right? So what we have written over there, so branch belted bias optimal pressure, so all of these things we have written where, inside a tire classes, but still through a car class I'm able to call a tire class. So I'm trying to execute a tire class from the car class itself by passing an object, and this is called as a encapsulation, I would say. So where we are trying to hide the actual implementation, we are not at all worried about the actual implementation. It will behave like it will depends upon the actual implementation, but those things will happen in a backend. I'm not supposed to aware about that. Just like a type method, right? So in type method, what we used to do, we try to pass a data, right? And then it will try to give me that, okay, fine. So what is a data type of this particular data set or the variable that we have passed? In the similar way, so here we are trying to pass an object of a tire class, and simply it is trying to tell me that, okay, fine. So this is the output which I'm supposed to get from the tire class, and so I'm able to get it, right? Now, in the similar way, I can try to pass like a object of engine class, object of a body class. So it will be able to call. So I'm just supposed to pass like a object of an engine class and object of the body class over here. And yes, whatever we have written inside the tire class, engine class, and a body class, this is not something that we have written inside the car class, right? But we are just trying to pass an object over here, and so object will try to call the actual class implementation internally, and then I will be able to get a data. So actually we are trying to encapsulate the description or encapsulate the implementation of a tire, engine, and a body class over here. We are not trying to call this tire, engine, and a body class directly. My car class will call tire, engine, and body class, and then it will be able to execute it, and then I will be able to get a data or the output which we have written inside the tire, engine, and a body class. So here we are trying to hide the actual implementation in a runtime whenever we are trying to execute it, and this concept, I would say, is called as a encapsulation concept. So hope all of you are able to understand this particular implementation. So someone is saying that please post all the code discussed in the class in the dashboard. So it's already there from the very first day itself. You can go ahead and you can download it. Even when I have started this class, I have shown you, and even the code which I'm using, so I have downloaded it from your dashboard itself. So in a lecture itself, I already talked about that. It's already available. Now, so here you will be able to find out, okay, so this is like an encapsulation. Now, so there are a different kind of a encapsulation which exists. So there is something called as a composite encapsulation, and there is something called as a dynamic extension. So let's try to understand that what is the difference between a composite and what is a meaning of a dynamic extension. There is a very thin line or a very thin differences that you will be able to find out in between these two variety of the encapsulation. Idea is same. Like we are just trying to hide the implementation. So that's the whole idea, and this is what we are trying to achieve in this particular place. Okay, so fine guys, here, so I will try to show you another encapsulation, so where I will try to hide the implementation, but still I will be able to use it. So for whom I'm trying to hide the implementation. Okay, so here I'm trying to create a dog class. As you can see, I'm trying to create a dog class, a very simple class I'm trying to create, which takes like a 3 argument name, year of birth, and a breed of the dog, right? And then I have written like a str method over here, and then what I'm trying to do is like I'm trying to return something like a name or breed or maybe year of birth. I'm trying to return out of it. Okay, that is done. So here I'm trying to create a dog class. Here I'm trying to create an object of a dog class, and then I'm trying to print the object. And for sure, whenever I'm trying to print it, so whatever I have written inside the string method, so it is going to print back itself, right? So whatever message you are going to print, so here I'm trying to print a line which holds like a name, a breed, or maybe a year of birth. So I'm able to get a result. It's completely fine. Now here I would say that what I'm trying to do is, so I have a student class as well, right? One is a dog class. We have created it, right? Now I have created a student class as well in this particular place. And let's see what I'm trying to do. So here a student class is trying to take a two parameter, a two argument, and a graphics and student ID is trying to take. And what I'm trying to do is, so I'm trying to create an object of a student class, right? Object of the student class by passing a data set, over here and in this particular place. So whenever I'm trying to print this student, so elect as a student, so it will try to take maybe an graphics, and this is going to take a student ID. These two, or anything I can pass, like a name, surname, or year of birth, or whatever I want, I can try to pass it over here. And then it is trying to print whatever I have written over here in this particular place. Now, so instead of doing that, so yes, a student class we can create and we can directly call it. There is no issue with that. But instead of doing that, so inside a student, I'm trying to pass what? I'm trying to pass basically a Kurjavka. Kurjavka is nothing but it's an object of a dog class, basically. So instead of passing this string or some graphics over here, so I'm trying to pass basically an object of the other class. Because what I assume is, so there can be a school for a human being and there can be a school for a dog as well, where dog is trained, I would say, for a different skill set. And then again, there is a school of, so dog and human. So both can be a student of a different schools, or both I can try to represent, or both I can try to accumulate in a single class itself, right? With the help of single class itself. So there is a separate dog class which I have created. There is a, because what happens is, so whenever I'm talking about dog classes, so your breed will come into a picture, but in human classes, these variables will not come into a picture, right? Name and year of birth is fine, right? So, and again, so like a dog must be having its own ID for the particular, like a school which belongs to like a dog, and then human must be having its own ID which belongs to a human. So here what I'm trying to create is, I'm trying to create a object of a student class. That is completely fine. And here also I'm trying to create an object of the student class, but as a variable, as a parameter value, right? Or as a data which I'm supposed to pass at the time of creating an object. So I'm not trying to pass like some kind of a string. So I'm trying to pass what? I'm trying to pass a object which is a variable of a dog class, basically, right? So even in this case, so whenever I'm going to execute this set of a code, so internally it will try to call what? So Kurjavka belongs to dog class. It will try to call a dog class. I don't have to worry about the dog class, basically. So what has been written inside the dog class, so it will try to call automatically. I will just have to call the student class. It will try to call automatically this object, and then it will try to execute that class, and then whatever output is given inside that, it will try to show you that output. Let's try to understand how it is going to give me all the outputs. So here, if I'm trying to print these things, Kurjavka is not defined. Let me execute this one, then it will be fine. Okay, so here you will be able to find out that, okay, I'm trying to print a student class. That is completely fine. So it is trying to print like this one plus this one. It is trying to print. Mint is trying to print like a student ID. That's it. Simple. It's trying to print basically a student ID in this particular place. So graphics plus student ID, and it is trying to print this one. Now, if I'm trying to pass a Kurjavka, so in that case, like I told you, so it is not going to execute or call this class over here. So through this class, it will try to call what? It will try to call, first of all, this class. And whatever you have written, so whatever you have written over here, so Kurjavka is Alaika born in 1954. So it is going to call that one. That is fine. Plus, what, so anagraphics wise, so as an anagraphics we are trying to pass code Javka, right? And we have passing ID as well. So ID is a property which belongs to whom? Which belongs to a class, student class, basically. So it is going to print anagraphics, which it is trying to get from here, this return, and plus it is trying to print basically a student ID as well in this particular place. So in this case, in this way, we are trying to hide an implementation of a dog class basically, and then we are trying to perform this kind of a operation. So we are just trying to call like okay, so if it is just like a dog is also belongs to a same class, so in that case it's completely fine. Let's do one thing. So try to call it internally instead of calling these things directly, and in this case I will end up hiding an implementation. So this is again another kind of I would say encapsulation. Now, so you must have seen that there was a two kind of encapsulation that we have written over here. So one is called as a composite and another is called as a dynamic extension. Now composite simply means that, like I told you, there is a very thin differences in between a composite and a dynamic. So composite simply means that if you are going to pass all the variable as an object, that is called as a composite basically. This is called as a composite. If I'm talking about this one, so if I'm talking about maybe as an engine, so I'm trying to pass some like a string and then some kind of a things as a bias if I'm going to pass, right? So like this is called as a, so this is called as a dynamic. So again here dynamic means, so some of the object you're trying to pass as an, some of the variables you're trying to pass as an object, and some of the variable you are trying to pass as what? So as a, you're trying to pass as a string or some data type in this particular way, just like this one. So you're trying to pass an object and you are trying to pass this one. So basically it's called as a dynamic. So there is a composite and there is a dynamic extension you will be, or encapsulation, that you will be able to understand and you will be able to get in this particular place. As simple as that, I would say. So this is like something called as a encapsulation, guys, where we try to hide the actual implementation of a parent class, and we try to so I can, again, many of you just try to get confused with inheritance, right? So with the respect to a parent-child relation. So here we are not trying to establish a parent-child relation. Here, yes, even in parent-child relation, if you remember, so even in parent-child relation, so we were trying to call the entire data, entire variable, entire method from a parent to a child. But here, so we are trying to call it, but not in a parent-child way or not in an inherited way. So we are trying to call it through an object, basically. So through an object, so we are trying to call it in this particular place, and we are trying to execute another class. So on one class we are trying to call in another class, I would say, and at that point of a time, so I'm not worried about the implementation of the previous classes which I'm trying to call. So that concept is called as a encapsulation. We are trying to hide an implementation of one class and then we are trying to execute into another classes. As simple as that, I would say. So I have some task for you. So like if you are able to understand this encapsulation, so what you have to do is, so you have to create like classes, I would say. So you can try to create one class, maybe like you can try to create a class one. So class one, okay, let me give a problem statement this way. Okay, so you can try to create a class one first of all, right? And then so inside so you have to create like a class one and then like a class two. Whatever name I have given, you are supposed to give the same name. Class 3 you are supposed to create. Now inside a class 1, so basically like you have to define some parameter like A1, A2, A3, class 2 B1, B2, B3, and class 3 C1, C2, C3 you have to define in class 1, class 2, and class 3. Now there will be a class 4, and inside a class 4 basically what you can do is class 1, class 2, class 3 is fine. Now inside a class 4, so you have to create maybe like D1, D2, D3, and then you are supposed to implement encapsulation with the help of class 4. Now, whenever you're trying to do the implementation for the class 4, so make sure that here you are supposed to create one method, I would say. So M1 over here, M2 over here, and M3 in this particular place. Now, what you are supposed to do is, so there is a class 1, there is a class 2, and there is a class 3. Now, inside every classes, the variable initialization will be A1, A2, A3, class 2, B1, B2, B3, class 3, C1, C2, C3. Now, there will be a method that you have to create M1, M2, M3 inside class 1, 2, and 3 respectively. Now, so what you are supposed to do is, so you are supposed to call M3, or here whenever you're trying to create a M1, M2, M3, so M1, M2, M3 should use this variable. So maybe you can try to return like a print statement of these variables, So what I want is, so whenever you're trying to call a class M1, so you're supposed to call a class M1 object with this method. So it should be able to call it, and it should be able to print data inside my console. So this is the requirement that you have as of now. So hope you all are able to understand it. Simple. Again, those who are not able to understand, so try to create a class 1, try to create a class 2, try to create a class 3. I think all of you will be agree with that. Second step is, so you have to create a variable inside a class 1, class 2, and class 3. So inside a class 1, A1, A2, A3, class 2, B1, B2, B3, and class C, C1, C2, C3, and class 4, so D1, D2, D3. These are the variables you have to create. Now inside every classes, you have to create a method called as M1, M2, M3 respectively. Now this M1, M2, M3 should return the string of A1, A2, A3, or like a M2 will return a string of like a B1, B2, B3, or concatenation you can say, if I'm going to pass a string data set. And C1, C2, C3 is supposed to return again a string, and I'm not supposed to call these classes directly 1, 2, 3. I'm supposed to call this method through class 4. Basically, I wanted you to like call these things through class 4 in terms of a encapsulation. Now do it. You have a next 5 minutes to perform this operation. Anyone who is not able to understand a requirement, you can just ping me. Okay, fine. So someone is saying that, okay, fine, repeat the requirement. Again, I'm repeating. This time, try to focus. So here, simple statement is, so I have to create a class. Now, so class 1, class 2, and class 3, you have to create. Now, when you are creating a class 1, class 2, class 3, so you have to keep a variable A1, A2, A3, B1, B2, B3, and C1, C2, C3 as an initialization variable, just like any other classes that we used to create. Now, M1, M2, M3, so M1, M2, and M3, so these are the method that you are supposed to create inside class 1, class 2, and class 3, and this method should return the concatenation of A1, A2, and A3. Let's suppose like I'm trying to take like a A1, A2, A3 as a string. So over here again, B1 plus B2 plus B3. So concatenation of B1, B2, B3, it should return, and then C1, C2, C3, it should return. Now what I want you to do is, so you have to create a class 4, and through class 4, you are supposed to print each and everything that you have written inside M1, M2, and M3. Simple. Yeah, so Siva is asking that from class 4 instance, we will call the class 1's M1 function. Yes, yes, Siva, that's correct. So normally asking, I just want to know like the last requirement. So last requirement is to implement an encapsulation if you are able to understand it. Okay, so anyone who can give me answer? Okay, so someone has pinged me. Viraj Yadav, JN823, okay, one classroom, one print. Okay. Viraj, where is your class 4? Okay, half done. Gagan has given me a code C1, C2, C3, and then C4. You are trying to type, and then okay, so this is the code. I got it from Gagan Arora. So Gagan has given me this code, and we will try to understand what he has written for sure. Okay, so Abhijit has also pinged me a code. Okay, I want to find. Sai has also pinged me a code. Okay, okay, fine. Mangesh has pinged me a code. Okay, C1, C2 plus 1, 2, 3. Okay, this one. Mangesh, you are not trying to call anything inside the class 4. Where is your object? I can't find an object over here. Apurva, class 1, class 2, class 3, class 4, okay. Class 3, class 4 SDR. Okay, so this is also good. Guys, what happened to others? So I can see lots and lots of result, but still frequency is very less as compared to last classes. Just try to focus on your class and start writing a code. I think this is the best way to learn inside a class itself. Rajesh Thakur, okay, Rajesh, okay, Mahesh, Ranu, Manish, right? Manish, okay, then Hari Krishna, class 3, class 1, class 2, class 3, half of the object you have created, Manish, Sai Krishna, Tushar, Sharma, then, okay, object is the, okay, Suraj, okay, class 1, class 2, class 3, 4, and this one, Naren has given me a code. 1, 2, 3. Yadunandan has pinged me a code. Sairam has pinged me a code. And Tejas, okay. Class 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Nitish has pinged me a code. Okay. Fine. Nikhil, Akash, Varandari, okay, Astosh, and okay, Apurva. Okay, fine. Fine, guys. So, like, as you can see over here, that person has written a code in this particular place. It's a very simple implementation, like I have asked you to do. So, I have asked you that, okay, fine, you create a class one, then create a variable of A1, A2, A3, create a method M1 in the similar way. So, you have to create a class two and then class three, and then you can try to create a class four. So, where it is trying to take like a four variable, and then you have to write a functions where it is trying to like consider, or it is trying to call like all the methods. So as you can see, it's just trying to call like all this like m1 self dot d1 dot m1, and then d2 dot m2, and d2 dot m3. It is trying to call class d abc if you are trying to pass. Yeah, see what will happen in this case. So basically you have written, so you have written this code. So I think a person who has written this code, so you can observe over here that if I have changed this variable, right, if I'm not trying to pass an object, if I'm just trying to pass what, if I'm just trying to pass some kind of a string, so in that case it will not be able to find out m3. It will be able to find out an m3 even only if I have given the object over here, otherwise it will not be able to find out. So in this case it's not an encapsulation, right? So you should know that, okay fine, so what is a method which has been written inside that one, right? And then only you will be able to call it. But yeah, fine, like to object you are trying to call it abc. Okay, fine, guys. Most of you have already pinged me a code. Now, so let's try to do one more thing. So what I want you to do is, so just try to perform one experiment so that you will be able to get some very clear response and some very clear output. So my next requirement, which I am going to give you over here is, so just try to create one class. Let's suppose class one you have to create. This is the new requirement, guys. Just try to focus and try to implement it, and for sure you will face some kind of a issue while implementing this requirement. So what you have to do is, so you have to create a class one. It's fine. Now inside a class one, so you have to create a protected variable. Protected. So I'm assuming that all of you remember that how to create a protected variable. I think we already talked about a private, we already talked about a protected, and we already talked about the public variable. So there is a class C1 you have to create. Inside that you have to create a protected variable first of all. And then what you have to do is, so you have to create a class a C2, and inside a class C2 you are supposed to inherit C1. You are supposed to inherit C1 basically in this particular place. And then what you have to do is, so you have to call this protected variable, so with the help of object of C2. So let's suppose if I'm going to create an object of a C2 class over here, then I'm supposed to call a C2 dot protected variable over here. Protected variable. So this is one of the implementation that you are supposed to do. So again, I'm going to repeat my question over here. So I think we talked about a protected variable. Now, so what you have to do is, so I'm not going to say you that, okay, fine, so how to create a protected variable. We have already discussed these things in a class. My requirement is very simple over here. So I have to create a class C1. Inside that you have to initialize a protected variable. Then I have to create a class C2, and then I have to perform the inheritance operation of C1 into C2, and then through C2 object I'm supposed to call this protected variable. Now show me that whether you are able to do it or not parallelly. So so you are supposed to write another code where you have to create a class C1. Same here, you have to create a private variable I would say, and then you have to create a class C2, and inside a C2 you have to call a C1, which is the inheritance, and then like you have to call same thing. So you have to call like this private variable. So I would say like an object of C2 you have to create, and object of a C2 dot private variable you are supposed to call. Private variable you are supposed to call. So now write a code for this one. So we have a class C1, we have a class C2. So C1 is nothing but it's a parent class, C2 is nothing but it's a child class. Through child class, you have to call a protected variable as well as you have to call the private variable. Write a code, show it to me. And then again, I'll give you one more like a example. I'll try to ask you to write down one more example, and then we will try to clarify that what is a use of encapsulation. So because we are talking about encapsulation, we will try to understand the uses of encapsulation after this. Quick guys, anyone who is not able to understand, so you can let me know, and I will try to explain you this requirement again. But yeah, so I'm assuming if you are going to say that, okay, fine, so everything is fine, in that case implement it, as simple as that. Okay, someone is saying that protected is possible, so you have to experiment. Basically you have to experiment that how you are going to create it. So Gagan has already pinged me a code, and then Gagan has pinged me a code. Let me copy someone's code from here itself, and for both of these things, so you have to show me the outcome. So class, okay, so it's a protected variable self, and pass, and then C2 object. Okay. And Manish has also pinged me a same code. Sonal has also pinged me a same code almost. Okay, protected, fine. C1. Fine guys, just do it. You have 5 minutes of time. Okay, so anyone who has done these things for private, I can see people have done these things for protected, and self, okay, private, protected. Okay, Sunil has done these things for private as well as for protected. Okay, fine, guys. Now, so I'll come to the third point, which is related to the same point, I would say. So here, what you have done. So if I'll almost every one of you have done the similar kind of a coding. So like I can check these things in our chat box basically that this is something that you guys have done. Now, so let me add something to this one. So here, what you have done is, so you are trying to create an object, and basically here you are trying to call a variable. So for sure, if you are trying to inherit something, so these variables will be available. A, B, and C variables will be available in this particular place. I completely agree with that. Now, just a little bit of modification you will have to do in this particular place. Now, just do one thing for me, that if you have created a class C1, if you have created a class C2, and if you are trying to inherit class C1 into C2, so instead of calling this variable directly, right? This is correct, I would say. This is not wrong. So I can't say that this is wrong. It's correct approach. But what I wanted to do over here is, so just try to create another. So this is the class, and inside this class, try to call the variable B and the variable C. So one by one, you can try to call it. So inside the class, try to call this variable B and a variable C. I just want you to create a variable object over here. You have to print just an object. You have to just print an object in this particular place, and maybe so you can try to create a, you can try to like access these things within a class. So protected variable as well as private variable, try to access it inside this class. Maybe you can try to write some kind of a plus addition or concatenation operation. I don't have any kind of issue with that, or just try to access it and then try to show me a result. So idea is very simple. Again, those who are not able to understand, so I'm just going to repeat it. So this implementation is correct. He has created basically like a protected variable and a private variable. I don't have any kind of issue with these things. So it's completely fine. But inside a class C2, you are supposed to call these private variable as well as a protected variable, as you have already done the inheritance. And what you have to do is, and through object, then you can try to call it. So here, let's suppose like maybe like okay, so here you have to do the variable, just try to call it in this particular place and then show me like how it works. And then I will try to explain you something which will be a conclusion of inheritance or like abstraction, as well as I would say which will be a conclusion of a encapsulation. So all three will try to conclude in a single set with the help of this example. So hope you all are able to understand the requirement, guys. Okay, yes. Okay, Ahmad Ibrahim has written this code. I think we can go ahead with that. Okay, so now here let's try to understand it. So in this particular place, let's try to conclude each and everything that we were trying to talk about. So here we have a class one. It's completely fine. Inside a class one, so we have a variable ABC, and some variable are like a public, some variable are private, and some variable are private, and some variable are protected. We can see all those things, and even we know that in a backend, so how it is going to store like a private variable or maybe a protected variable and all those things. Now here we have a class C2, that is completely fine, and C2 is trying to inherit a class C1, that is also fine. Now inside this this one, so we have created our own method. He has created our own method, I would say, and then he's trying to utilize like a and B and C. So he's trying to use basically like implementation of A and like a variable A, B, and C. But before that, so here as you can see, so I'm just trying to create this variable in this particular place. Now, so as of now, you know that whenever some variable is created as a public or as a private or as a protected, right? So in that case, whenever I'm trying to call a protected variable, so I'm supposed to give a underscore. And then in a similar, with the help of singular signature, I'm supposed to call it. Whenever I have given a double underscore, so in that case I'm supposed to append or prepend, I would say. So I'm supposed to prepend the class name and then I'm supposed to call it. This is what you know because you have written this particular class one. Suppose if I have written this class one, right? So suppose this class one implementation is not with you. Let's try to understand it. What is the meaning of this? So let's suppose if I have written a class one, right? So let's suppose I'm going to remove this one from here. And let's suppose I have written a class one in this particular place. And I'm going to just tell you that, okay, fine. So I have a class called as class one, right? I have a class called as class one. And this class takes, suppose you have to, I'll ask you just, okay, fine, to do one thing. So just try to write a class two, right? Or just try to write one child class for me where you have to inherit my class one. Inherit my class one, and signature I will try to give you that, okay, fine. So I'm trying to pass a value A, B, and C. So these are the three parameters which I'm trying to pass, or these are the three variables which I'm trying to initialize inside my class one, I would say. So if I will ask you to do that, so you will not try to perform this operation. So what you will do in that case, so you will try to write this kind of a operation. So you will remove it. You will basically remove it and you will try to write in this particular way that, okay, fine. So class A, class B, and class C. Now, if I'm going to execute this code, so it is going to fail for sure. So it is going to work for this one, but it is not going to work for these variables. So it will simply tell me that, okay, fine. So I don't know which attribute B that you are talking about, right? So basically in this case, unless and until I'm not aware about the actual class, suppose someone has already written some package, right? And in that package, so suppose if I'm going to write maybe a print statement, right? So if I'm going to write a print statement over here, print, and then if I'm going to do shift and tab, now there are many parameters this is going to take. There are many parameters that you can pass over here, right? If someone has made some of the variable or some of the parameter as a private or as a public, if I'm trying to ask you that, okay, fine, so extend this class. So in whatever class print method is written, just extend this one. So you will not be able to extend it. I would say you will not be able to extend it, or you will not be able to inherit it unless and until you are not aware about the signature. Now this holds true if I'm talking about any other programming languages. So suppose in a Java or in a Scala, so if you are going to define some like a variables or some method or some function as a public, private and protected, so if whenever you will try to call some private variable in a subclass, you will not be able to call it. So basically you will not be able to call it at all. What you have to do is, so in that case, basically this encapsulation comes into a picture. So here basically what I'm trying to do is, so here I'm trying to call a class, like here I'm trying to call this particular class, and at the time of calling of this particular class, right? So if I'm just know about a variable name A, B and C, I'm not able to call it. I have already given the signature. So whenever I'm giving you a signature, I will not tell you that, okay, so whether this variable is private, protected or a public. What I will do is I will simply just tell you the signature, right? So this class is basically a encapsulated class for you. So this class is a kind of a class about which you don't have any kind of a idea, right? Now, so if I'll ask you, okay, fine, so just try to override it, you will not be able to override it. See, I'm able to get an issue over here. So because you just have idea, unless and until I'm not telling you that, okay, fine, so I have a variable called as private, I am having some variable as a public, or I'm having some variable as a protected, right? But even in this case, suppose if I wanted to utilize this class, right? Suppose if I wanted to utilize this class, now what I will do, I can try to create maybe an object of this class, right? So object of this class 1, let's suppose if I'm going to create, and then if I'm going to pass maybe 4, 5, 6, so fine. And then if I'm like going to access it, I will be able to access it for sure. So object 1 dot and object 2 dot and object 3 dot. So here, or maybe if I wanted to like print this object, so maybe I can try to write like a def underscore str underscore, and then here, so I can try to return, basically here I can try to return a self dot a inside that class itself, self dot a, and a self dot, I can say self dot underscore b, because I have created this class, so I know about the implementation. Self dot a, self dot b, and self dot, I can say underscore class 1, because I'm trying to write these things inside the parent class itself. So C, and then let me convert this entire things into str, because I'm trying to pass the integer value. So str is just a typecasting, because str always try to take returns as a str itself, and it will be able to concatenate it. Okay, so str, and then I'm trying to keep these things as a str. Now this is something which I have written inside my parent class. Just try to understand this. This is something which I have written inside my this classes, right? Now what I'm trying to do is, so here in this particular case, so this is something which I have created, and yeah, so if I'm going to print maybe like a object of this one, obj, so it will be able to print each and everything in this particular cases. So str, where is my str? Yeah, self. Okay, so now if I'm going to execute, so fine, I will be able to get a concatenation of all these three, right? Now at the same point of a time, if I'll tell you, okay, fine, so this class 1 I have already created, now do one thing, so try to utilize this variable b, variable c, and all those things. So I have a class which takes 3 arguments, a, b and c. Now I will not tell you that, okay, fine, so I have basically like a private or protected or maybe some other kind of a things, but still if I want you to utilize that class, still in that case I want you to utilize this class, Now what you will do in that particular case? So what you are supposed to do in that particular case, so let's try to understand it. So in that case, what I can do is, so maybe I can try to create a class 2, and maybe in that case, so suppose if I'm going to create a class 2, the way we have created our classes in our inheritance, right? The way we have created our classes into like a encapsulation method that I was talking about, like this one, and then I can try to pass another class just as an object. So let's try to understand this one. So here I'm trying to create one class just like a student class which I have created, and let's try to create an object of a student class. So let's try to create an object of the classes in this particular place. So just try to write down a pass. I just don't want to give any kind of a definition of the class 2, and let's try to create an object obj1 over here, and obj1 is nothing but it's an object of a class 2, but it is trying to call what? It is trying to call object of the class 1 in this particular place. Okay, so I can try to create, I'm trying to pass one argument over here. So I have to create like an init method. So def underscore init underscore, and then I can try to create a self over here, and self, and let's suppose it is trying to take one parameter, so that I can try to call one of the classes, and then simple self dot a is equal to a. Now if I'm going to call these things, and now if I'm going to print object of 1, right? So as you can see that I'm able to invoke basically object 1 over here. I just have to write a string method in this particular place, so that I will be able to print whatever I have written in this particular place. So if I'm going to write a local string method, and it will be nothing but simple str, and then it's supposed to print basically like a self dot a, and as you can see I'm able to access these things. So now let's try to conclude. Suppose here you have created a public, private, or protected. Now if I'm going to ask you a very simple question, that do one thing, so try to utilize this particular class 1, where I have a private variable, where I have a protected variable, right? But in case of an inheritance, I will not tell you, I'll not tell you that, okay, fine, so class 1 is having this kind of a signature. I'll just tell you that, okay, fine. So basically it takes a 3 variable, A, B, C, D, whatever it is, it takes those variable. Now, so if you will try to call that variable with the name which I have given you, suppose if I'm not telling you that, okay, it's a private, protected, or a public, it is going to collapse. It is going to fail. Basically, because unless and until you don't know the actual and exact signature of a class or class name, and unless and until you are not able to get the variable the way I have created a variable, you will not be able to perform the inheritance operation. That's the reason. So Python says that protected or abstraction is just a notation inside a Python, and it depends upon the user. So how user is going to treat it. Right? So in case of an inherited class, or in case of a child classes, you will not be able to utilize this variable unless and until I will not be telling you that, okay, fine, so this is the signature which I have given. Now, but still, if I have to utilize this class, what I can do is, so I can try to treat this class as an encapsulated class. So I don't have to know that, okay, fine, so whether it's a public or private or protected, fine, keep it. If I have created this classes, fine, I'll just try to keep it with me. I'll just tell you that, okay, fine, so this class takes 3 arguments. What you will do is, you will try to create an object of this class. Simple, right? You will try to create an object of this class, because whenever you are creating an object of that class, you are not supposed to worry about that whether the variable is private or the variable is protected or variable is public. So fine, I have created an object over here. Now what I will do is, so I will try to pass an object inside another class. So this class will try to call this object internally. This class will try to call that object internally. So without even, so in this case, you are actually protecting this entire class for a manipulation. So if someone wants to manipulate your class, they will not be able to manipulate it. Because to manipulate it, they should first of all know that what is the kind of a variable you have created, private, public, or protected, right? But they will not be able to manipulate it unless and until they don't know these things, basically. But they will be able to utilize it. So suppose if you have to protect your particular method or your class's entire class object, so in that case, this is how you will be able to implement it. So you are supposed to implement a encapsulation, basically, where you can hide the implementation of one class, and but still you will be able to access that particular classes the way I'm trying to extract it. So this is how you can try to correlate, I would say, abstraction, inheritance, as well as this encapsulation concept. Now you will be able to understand very clearly another situation or another scenario of an encapsulation, where I don't even know that my variables are public, private, or protected, but still I'm able to utilize it, right? Still I'm able to utilize it. Still I'm able to create an object of that, and then I'm trying to execute those variables. But I'm not able to manipulate those variables because those are the encapsulated classes. Those are basically a black box. So anyone who is having any kind of a concern or any kind of a confusion, I think everyone is able to understand a whole idea that we were trying to talk about. Okay, so someone is saying that it's getting confusing. So yes, it is confusing, I would say. So let me explain you once again. Okay, so this time let's try to understand it. So I'm trying to correlate actually three things over here. I'm trying to correlate the abstraction concept. I think you all are aware about a public, private, and protected abstraction concept. One thing. Second concept which I'm trying to merge over here is a inheritance, right? This is the second concept which I'm trying to merge in this particular place. The third concept which I'm trying to merge in this particular place is encapsulation. And all three concepts I'm trying to explain you in a single place itself. Let's try to understand it once again. So peacefully just look into your screen as of now. So see what happens. So I think all of you have written a code. Now here, what I'm trying to achieve, let's try to understand it. So I have written just a very simple class 1, right? I think everyone will agree with that. First step. Then inside that class, I have created a multiple variable. Some of the variable is a public variable like A we have created. So some of the variable is a public variable like A I have created. Some of the variable is a protected variable I have created over here. Some of the variable is a private variable which I have created by underscore underscore. I think every one of you will agree with that. Okay. Now what I have to do is, so this is something that we have created, and again this is something which it is going to return. Now what I can do is, so if I have to access all of these variables, right? If I suppose there is a requirement that I'm supposed to utilize a class 1, and by utilizing a class 1, so whatever I have written over here or whatever I'm trying to do inside a class 1, I'm supposed to perform all such kind of operations through some other class. So suppose this is the class 1 I have created, but you are not aware about this. Excuse me. I have created a class 1, but as a user, I'm not giving you this class 1 code, right? I have hosted this code somewhere and just trying to keep all of this code with me. Now what I will tell you is, okay, fine. So I have already written a class 1, and inside a class 1, so I'm trying to pass a 3 variable, A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z kind of a variable it is going to take. And then finally it is going to give you some kind of a output. This is what a kind of a information I will give it to you. Forget about whatever I have written inside a class 1. You will not be able to see it, basically, right? I'll just tell you this thing that, okay, fine. So there is a class 1, and you have like a class 1 takes basically a 3 variables, right? A, B, and a C in this particular place. Now what you will do is, so again, I will ask you that, okay, fine. So do one thing, try to implement a inheritance. So suppose if you are able to understand this part, so I will ask you that, okay, fine. So do one thing. So try to implement a inheritance. So now what you will do, you will try to create a class, class 2 you will try to create. So class 2 you will try to create. Now while creating a class 2, so what you will do is, so maybe you can try to define this in it, or whenever you try to create a class 2, so you will try to basically, so you can try to inherit the class class 1. So this is a basic inheritance operation which I'm trying to perform. Inheritance operation simply means that I will be able to get everything. So suppose if I'm going to write a pass over here, and then if I'm going to create an object, let's suppose object 3. Object 3 is nothing but it's an object of a class 2, and if I'm going to execute it, for sure it will ask me for 3 variables, 3 arguments. So as you can see over here, so I'll try to pass 3 arguments, because even this thing is known to you. I have already told you that, okay, fine. So there is a object this is the signature of the class, and this class takes 3 parameter or 3 arguments. So fine, you will try to pass 3, 4, 5. Done. Now if I'll try to execute it, everything is fine. Now if I wanted to access individual values, you have already created an object of class 2 and it is able to pass this 3, 4 and 5 over there. So everything is working fine. Now if I wanted to print this object, so suppose if I'm going to write like a print, print this object 3, so it's completely fine. I will be able to print it because it is going to call this method, because I'm already trying to inherit this class 1, so it will be able to call that particular method for sure. But my question is not to print an object. My question is to access the variable over here. Will you be able to access the variable? Will you be able to access A, B and C variable? Because I told you that, okay, so this is the class C1 and it takes a variable A, it takes a variable B and it takes a variable C. These are the 3 variables it takes. I have never told you that whether my variable is public or private or protected. I will not tell you that what is the kind of a variable which I have created, what is the kind of a abstraction, because abstraction is something which is supposed to be a secret. I would say that's the reason. So we are trying to abstract it basically. So fine, I'll never tell you that, okay, fine, so whether it's a public, private or protected. Now, so if I'm not going to tell you, so by default, you're going to assume that no, it will be a public, means it will be A, B and C in this particular place. Now you will try to access it. Let's see whether you are able to access it or not. So you have created an object 3. Now if you are going to call object 3 dot, I would say, if you are trying to call A, if you are going to execute it. So yes, you are able to access 3 over here. Now if I'm going to call object 3 dot B, will you be able to access it? No. The reason behind this one, I think we all know what is the reason. The reason behind this one is, so B is basically a protected method, protected variable. So unless and until you are not going to append underscore over here, you will not be able to access it. But this is a hidden class for you. This is a hidden class for you. Don't even know how I have implemented these things. I just told you that, okay, so ABC variables, which you will be able to get it, right? So this is the class which I have written and which is hidden to everyone, basically, right? So unless and until you don't know the exact signature, unless and until I'll not come forward and tell you that, okay, this is the protected variable, you will not be able to call it at all. Again, if I have to call like a class C, right? So again, I will not, so like if I have to call a variable C over here, so again, variable C is what? Variable C is a private variable, right? So now we know that whenever we have to call a private variable, so we are supposed to append a class name in this particular place, underscore class name, then only I will be able to call it. If I'm going to call a class C variable directly, I will not be able to call it. As simple as that, right? So okay, in this way I'm able to call it, but I have not told you that whether it's a public, private, protected. So by default, you will try to call in this particular way and it is going to fail, right? So if you have kept some of the variable as a protected or as a private, right? And if I'm not going to tell you, unless and until I'm not going to tell you, you will not be able to utilize it. You will not be able to utilize those variables. You will not be able to access those variables individually at all. Right? You will not be able to access those variables individually, or you will not be able to perform any kind of a operation. Now, so let's try to perform a similar kind of operations in this particular place. Now, what I will do is, so I'm just trying to call a class, like a class. Okay, so this is basically in this way. So I will not be able to call it. So this is a class 2. Now, so what I'm trying to do is, so I'm trying to basically pass an object itself. So in whatever calculation which I have written over there, right? So I'm just trying to pass an object itself in this particular place, and then I'm trying to print an object. Directly I'm trying to print an object. Now, so here, so whatever we have done or whatever we have written, over there. Now, so in this particular place, right? So whatever we have done inside that particular class, it will be able to invoke that particular class automatically, right? So suppose in that class, so we have written that okay, fine. So try to print only a value of A, or try to print only a value of B, or try to print only a value of C. I will be able to get it. So through variable, for sure, I will not be able to access it because I just know, okay, fine. So B is B basically. B is not underscore B, or C is just a C for me. C is not like a private variables for me, right? So even over here, it's the same thing, which I will not be able to perform. But in my classes, I can write it down that, okay, fine. So try to print just, I can create a method which will try to return just A, just B, or just C. And here, so it's completely fine. So I will just, I will not bother about like what kind of a variables I have created over here. I will simply able to access it. Even in case of inheritance, you will be able to get all of those methods, but you will be able to manipulate it. You will be able to manipulate it only in case of, you know, the implementation. In case of encapsulation, what happens is, so I'm not supposed to worry about like what kind of implementation that people have done in a past or inside that particular classes. I'll just try to access it. And this is what we do in all the inbuilt functions or in all the inbuilt method that is been written, basically. So in that case, we just try to like access the variables. We just try to access the methods directly. We try to pass a variable, it try to give the computation, and then final result I will be able to get. That's the reason. So I was trying to give you a reference for the map function. I was trying to give you a reference for maybe a list operations, maybe like I would say like print operations, or maybe a type operation. I don't know how people have implemented it. They have just given me a signature. I used to pass my data. I used to get my output. So basically, I'm trying to hide the implementation. So this is how you will be able to achieve the encapsulation operation, where you will not try to call the actual implementation of a data. You will not try to invoke, or you will not try to even access. You will not even try to access basically the data set which is available. In inheritance, generally we try to access it purposely. Because what is the meaning of inheritance in that case? Suppose my child class wanted to manipulate some variable, right? And if I'm not able to manipulate it, then what is the meaning of like inheriting those data? There is no meaning of inheriting those data, I would say, right? So in that case, I will simply go ahead with the encapsulation, where I just have to access the data. Doesn't matter what kind of things people have written. I'll just try to pass my input and I will be able to get my output. And this is the only thing in which I will be interested. So as simple as that. So this is how you can try to implement, guys, an inheritance concept. So you can try to like do the permutation combination, and then you will be able to get it. Now, so as we have already discussed, there is no public, private, or protected keyword which exists inside a Python. And that's the reason I would say that if you know the variables, if you know the signature of the variable, you will be able to access it. So there is abstraction which is available inside a Python, but there is no abstraction which you will be able to find out, which will strictly restrict you to accessing the variable. If I know the name, I will be able to access it, and I will be able to manipulate it inside the Python. So hope these three concepts, abstraction, inheritance, and encapsulation concept, is very much clear to each and every one of you, that what I'm talking about and how I'm trying to implement all of these three different kind of things in this particular places. Okay, someone is saying that what about a static method? There is no static method which is available. So don't try to compare these things with like a Java. Okay, Tejas Mohan is asking that how we can create how we can access the classes if it is available in your system or my system. So basically you have installed a Python package, right? So when you have installed a Python package, so there are many more classes which is already installed. That's the reason. So you are able to execute a code. Someone has already written a code for you. So in the similar way, so there is a procedure to create a build of the code. So if I wanted to share these things with you, and if you wanted to install this class inside your system, you can do it. I can create a build PyPy package. I can try to create, and then these things will be available just like a print method, or like I would say just like a print method, or just like any other things. So we will try to talk about that as well. So in a project sections, we'll try to understand that how you can create our own libraries basically. So suppose if you have created some method, I think people who are a part of internship, so they are already doing it. They are already creating a libraries because this is what we have assigned them as a part of their internship. So creating a library is one of the beautiful things, I would say, where you will be able to utilize all of your expertise that you have. Okay, so fine guys, let's try to move ahead and let's try to understand. Someone is asking that, okay, fine, sir. So to practice, where do we get a different variety of programs? See, it's not like you will be able to get it in a single place. You have to do a permutation combination. I never suggest anyone to follow anything because everyone is having some limitation. Just try to like do the permutation combination. Like, okay, fine. So if I'm able to like understand inheritance, right? Just try to write some kind of a complex program, because if you understand the meaning of inheritance, if you understand the meaning of encapsulation, just try to do some permutation combination over there. Now abstraction, if you understand, just do it. Then try to combine 3 to 4 things. This is the best practice, I would say. And again, I'll share this Jupyter notebook with every one of you, whatever permutation combination that we are doing inside the class. This will be available to all of you. So fine, guys, next concept is a very simple concept, I would say. This is called as a polymorphism, right? This is nothing. This polymorphism concept is nothing as compared to the things that we have discussed so far, so forth. So polymorphism simply means that so one entity but behavior will be different into a different situation. That is called as a polymorphism. So let's try to understand that how we can try to achieve a polymorphism. So for example, I'll just give you a layman example over here. So suppose if I'm a person, right? If I'm a person P, now at same point of a time, so I can behave as an employee at the same point of a time. So I can behave as maybe like a boss of someone, or at the same point of a time, I can behave as a teacher, I would say. And at the same point of a time, so maybe I can behave like a developer, or maybe some other roles I can have, like a family. If I'll try to consider like a family context, so in that case, I can be a brother of someone, or maybe I can be a son of someone, right? So basically, like there is a different kind of a role which is possible, right, for a same person itself. So person is not going to change. Person is exactly same. It's a P, person, right, that we are talking about. So person is same, but the behavior of the person is different into a different kind of a situation in different kind of a context. So the roles is going to change into a different scenario, right? So this concept is called as a polymorphism. Poly means nothing but n. So poly means nothing but n number of, I would say, like situation, or n number of, I would say, a scenario. So in which you are trying to replicate a same thing, or if the same thing is going to behave differently into a different situation. So when I will behave as an employee, so for sure I will try to like obey the rules and responsibility of this like whatever is defined for me as an employee. When I will behave as a boss, so for sure my roles will be different. When I will behave like a teacher, so in that case my role will be different. And when I behave like a son, so in that case my roles and responsibility will be different. But I'm the same person and the same person. So my entity is not going to change. My roles and responsibility and my behavior is going to change based on the context or based on the situation that we are going to face. And that concept is called as a polymorphism, guys, in this particular place. As simple as that, nothing fancy. Now, so again, if I have to show you some examples, so I can show you like some of the complex example as well, but I'll not try to go into those things. So I'll just try to show you like with the help of very simple example. Here, so we have written, I think all of you will be able to understand it. Simple. So here what I'm trying to do is, so I'm trying to create a function, a very simple function I'm trying to create. It is trying to take a 2 parameter as an argument, and then it is trying to return a plus b, right? Simple. So this a variable, b variable can be a string, it can be an integer, it can be a list, it can be a dictionary, it can be a tuples, or it can be any kind of a data type. That is completely fine. Now here you will be able to find out that I'm trying to call this function basically, right? I'm trying to pass 1 plus 1. So as a I'm passing 1, as a b I'm trying to pass 1. So we all know that if I'm trying to pass an integer, so for sure it will try to sum this one, and then it will try to give me a value, basically in case of a integer. Now at the same point of a time, so if I'm trying to pass a list, so we all know that it is trying to merge these 2 lists. It will try to ravel the list, and then it will try to merge it and give me a final single list. This is what I know. Now if I'm going to pass basically like a string, so I know that it is going to perform a concatenation operation, right? So here the plus operator that we have, this plus operator that we have, right? So this plus operator is same. The plus operator is same. The method, the function that I have created is same, exact same. but it is trying to behave differently when I'm going to pass a different kind of a data. So sometime it is trying to perform a numerical addition operation, sometime it is trying to perform a collection concatenation operation, or sometime it is trying to perform a string concatenation operation. So behavior is different, but entity is same. My function is same, my plus operator is same. So this situation is called as a polymorphism. I think we all are aware about that. I'm just trying to make sure that you are aware about a name as well. So the polymorphism name that we have are able to see over here. So I think now you all will be able to understand this polymorphism as this one as well. So fine guys, this is what I had to discuss with you in terms of, I would say, a OOPS concept. So the other basic things that you will be able to get inside the OOPS, like classes or objects, or maybe a inheritance, maybe a setter method or getter method, or maybe like a encapsulation, maybe an abstraction, maybe a polymorphism, maybe a method overloading, maybe a method overriding, right? Apart from that, you will not be able to get any other things inside the OOPS concept. Doesn't matter which language you are going to follow, whether it's a Java or maybe a C#, or maybe a Python. So in Python, you will be able to figure out that if you're coming from Java background or Scala background, so you will be able to figure out that many things is not available in Python. So many things Python has already removed it, so that it will be simpler for the user in terms of coding. Right, you're not supposed to take a much of pain, I would say, to write a code into a Python. They have already simplified it. They have already removed all the unnecessary things out of the Python libraries which was used. Now again, so it depends upon you that whether you are going ahead with the OOPS concept or whether you are going ahead with the scripting. So feel free to write a code in a scripting way or in a OOPS way, I would say. But ultimately, the project that you are going to do, so we are going to give you a project because it's a modular project. So you will be able to get all the projects in a OOP way, OOPS programming way. Because in terms of a scripting, we don't write a code. If it is a small project, it's completely fine. But if it's a huge project, you will not be able to maintain each and every packages, each and every class and the modules if you are just trying to, because these things will not be tightly coupled, right? So we always write a code which will be tightly coupled with each and everything, with each and every modules. This is how a project works, I would say. When you will go into a project section, so yes, you will be able to learn those things as well going forward. But yeah, as of now, so I think I'm assuming that all of you are quite comfortable while writing classes, while writing, creating objects, and while trying to implement all of these concepts that we have seen so far, so forth. So fine guys, now I will try to get into one of the very simple concepts over here that is called as a file IO operation. Now, so file IO operation wise, there are many more things which comes into a picture. So in a Pandas class, we are going to talk about almost every kind of a file manipulation. But in a Python core as well, so there are a API, there are a libraries, there are a function which is available, which will help you out to read out some of the textual data. Although this way is not an effective way of reading out the file, because in an actual scenario, you will be able to get an Excel sheet maybe, or maybe a Word file, maybe a TXT file, maybe a JSON file, maybe an XML file, maybe Avro file, maybe a Parquet file. So there are a different kind of a file that you will be able to get in a real time. In a real time, you will be able to get a different kind of a file. But in this particular place, you will, in a real time, you will be able to get different file. But here I will be just talking about a TXT file. When I will get into a Pandas operation, I will show you all the possible a variety of the file read, write, and a manipulation operation, because Pandas is one of the most powerful library. Now, so if you are looking for some library which is even much more powerful than Pandas, then you can go ahead with the Dask basically, or modern Pandas. I'll talk about that when I'll get into that section. I'll talk about that, which is even much more computational, computationally, you will be able to get a huge benefit over there. Plus, you will be able to get almost every kind of a method that we used to get into a Pandas. And those who knows Pandas, they're not supposed to re-explore each and everything to learn Dask. Dask is completely same as a Pandas. It always try to optimize the data read and write operation. That's the way you are going to perform this read and write operation. That's it. Now guys, so now I'll just show you some basic example in this particular case. It's not all kind of file like a read and write operation I'm going to show you in this one here. So what I'm going to do is, so first of all, I will try to create a file, right? So in Python, so if I have to create some kind of a file, let's suppose test21.txt file, if I'm trying to create. So this is the kind of a syntax which is available. Percentile write file. Write file is basically a command. I can try to execute it, right? I can try to execute it. Percentile write file, and it will be able to create this test21.txt. If I have to verify, maybe I can try to search for this file in this particular place. And as you can see, just a second ago, so it has created this file. Now, if I'm going to open up this file, so whatever things, hello, this is a quick test file or whatever data set which I have given, right? So here you will be able to find out that it has created a file automatically, and then it is trying to write a data, right? Suppose if this file is already available, in that case, so it will try to basically like overwrite the entire data set which is available inside the file, as simple as that. So write file, percentile write file is a syntax to create a file inside a Python code, just in a Python code. I'm talking about other like a libraries like a pandas or numpy. I'm just talking about a Python core library in this particular place. Now, so the next thing that we are going to do over here is, so I have already created this file test21.txt. I will try to open up this file from my like a Jupyter notebook. So test21 I think I have created. Yeah, test21 I have created over here. I'm trying to open up this file. So to open up the file, here the syntax is very simple. If I'll talk about a Java, it's not that simple, right? But here it's just a same small functions open, and you will be able to open up your file. Again, you can try to set a mode as well. So whether you wanted to open up a file into a read mode or maybe into a write mode, it's very simple. So I'm trying to call like a open, and then I'm trying to pass this file name in this particular place. That okay, fine. So test21.txt, just try to open it up. So fine, it will be able to open it up, not an issue. And then me try to like print this object in which it has opened a file. Now here you will be able to find out that I'm not able to see any kind of a data. So whatever data that it is trying to read, or at the time of opening up this file, so whatever things it is able to open, I'm not able to see the data. I'm just able to see the object. Now what I can do is, so I can try to call object.read operation, right? So if I'm trying to call object.read operation, if I'm going to execute it, so whatever I have written at the time of creation of this particular file, whatever it has stored inside this file, so it will be able to fetch all of those data. So whatever data is available inside my file, so yes, it is able to fetch all of those data at the time of read operations. It's a very basic and a very intuitive, simple operations that we are trying to perform in this particular case. Nothing else, nothing fancy. Now, so I'm able to read a data. Let's suppose if I'm again going to execute the same syntax, a same command, right? A file object dot read operation. Now, if I'm going to execute it, I'm not able to get a data. Now, what is the reason behind that? Right? So let's try to understand it. So whenever you try to read a file, so basically it will start reading a data from the very first place, right? And then cursor by cursor. So first of all, it will access this data, and then finally it will come over here. So now, as of now, cursor is available in a very last place. So cursor is available in last place. After that, I don't have any kind of a data. So again, if I'm going to call this read operation, so that's the reason. So it is able to give me blank. I'm not I don't have any data. I can't give you basically, because cursor pointing to this particular location in this particular case. Now what I can do over here is, so suppose if I have to set the cursor, so maybe I wanted to read a data maybe from the 10th position, maybe from the 20th position, and so on. So what I can do is, so I can try to perform one operation called a seek operation. So seek is nothing but it will always try to point a cursor on that particular indexes, or I can try to point a cursor even from the very beginning. That is also possible. Now here, so let's suppose if I'm trying to call this file open object that we have created over here, dot seek. So here I can try to reset the pointer. Now, so yeah, so suppose if I'm going to reset the pointer from the 0th indexes, so now my pointer is available on a very first index. Now again, if I'm going to perform the read operation, I will be able to read a data. Now again, if I'm going to execute it, now I will not be able to get the data, right? Again, I will have to reset the cursor. and then it will work fine. Suppose if I wanted to read a data maybe from the 10th position or from the 20th position, I can do that as well. So I can try to set my pointer on a 10th position, and then I can try to execute it. So from 10th position, I'm able to see the data set, as you can see. So if you will try to compare with this one, so I'm not able to get a data from the beginning. I'm able to get a data from the 10th indexes, I would say. So this is how this read operation works. This is how this open operation works. This is how this seek operation is going to work basically for you. So a read operation is nothing but, so it will try to like read out the data if you have already opened up a file. Like a method will try to open up simply a file. Write file if you're going to call. So in that case, it will try to create a new file, or it will try to overwrite a new files. As simple as that in this particular situation. Now, so let's suppose if you will give me a book, right, and you will ask me that, okay, fine, so do one thing. So try to read out this entire book one by one, line by line, right? So line by line, you have to read out the books, and then you will have to keep all these lines inside a simple list object. I can do that as well. There won't be any issue. So I can try to call like a myfile.read line, and then I can try to execute it. So let me set this pointer. Yeah. And here you will be able to see that, yes, I'm able to perform a read operation in this particular way. Now, so like I would like to take some questions. There is we'll talk about in tomorrow's class. I will be talking about like how we can perform a writing operation inside the file, how we can try to perform the append operations, how we can try to read a multiple lines one by one from the files. And again, so I will be talking about that, how I can try to treat my string, which is a in-memory variable, which exists inside your main memory. So a string, how I can treat my string as a file, because file is something which exists inside your hard disk. String is something which exists inside your RAM. So I will be talking about that in those classes, in tomorrow's classes probably. And then I will be talking about I will be talking about exception handling, basically, because exception handling is also like a major concept that we are supposed to cover in this particular place. And then I will get into a pandas. That will be a sequence that we are going to follow. So fine, guys, those who have a question, so maybe I can take some questions from your side, and then I can try to answer each and every one of you. So try to ask a valid question, guys. I think that will be better. So those who have a question, so they can raise their hand. I can just try to unmute them and they can go for the question. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Hi, Sudhanshu.
Yeah.
Actually, I was just looking for the example that you gave us to create for the class 1, class 2, class 3. And we were trying to call the any other function from class 2, class 3, something from class 4. So can you just show me the code? Can you just little elaborate? I was just get confused while making it.
Have you not written this things by yourself?
I couldn't. I mean, I have some issue actually. There is some issue.
Okay, fine. So let me ping you the code and you can try to look into that. Okay.
Sure. Thank you.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello, sir. Can you please give me a gist about single responsibility system?
Sorry?
Single responsibility system, SRP.
Why you are asking this question in this class? Am I talking about that system?
No, sir. Actually,
so,
it was.
Don't try to raise any kind of unnecessary classes. We have a doubting session for that, right?
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Hello.
So maintain the decorum of class.
Yeah. Hi, sir.
Yeah. Go ahead with the class. Go ahead with the question.
Okay. So you had created one class 1 and class 2, right? In the line number 48,
okay.
I guess.
Yes. Yeah.
And you had created an object for the class 1 in line just above of this cell.
Okay.
So my question is that still I'm not able to access the A, B, C individually.
Sorry, which one?
Not there, sir. Class 1. You have.
Okay, a person, just to answer the first question. So person who was asking about like a 4 classes, right? So I'll share this notebook inside your dashboard, and in this notebook, so I have mentioned this 4 classes as well. So I think you will be able to get your answer in this particular case. Okay, a person who has asked the question in the first place. Okay.
Hello.
Yes. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. Now next question. Yeah, I think you were talking about something.
End of file.
wait of wait. End of file is nothing but your end of file means like a pointer which is pointing to the very last location. After that, we don't have a data.
So
That is called
that's
as EOR.
we are getting a null answer in that question.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. So it's not null actually. We are able to get. It's a blank string. There is a
Blank
difference
string.
between a data type as a null and a blank string. So both is not same.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Yes. You can go ahead with your question. So I think someone was asking question. Yeah. Go ahead, please. Okay. Next question.
Sudhanshu Vipin here.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So in the example you have shown for accessing private and protected member,
Yeah.
your question, how passing an instance of a class or object of a class to another class in Python works?
Sorry. What was your question?
How passing an object of a class to another class in Python works?
How we are passing classes to the.
How passing an object of a class to another class in Python?
So
that,
this is how we are trying to pass an object, right? So I think I have shown you this example over here. So where I was trying to pass an object, right? So here, can I say that I'm trying to pass an object of a class tire in a class car?
yeah.
Yeah. So this is how we are trying to pass. Simple.
So here, okay.
So we are trying to pass, what is T? T is, can I say that T is nothing but it's a
Yeah,
object of the tire class, and we are trying to pass where? We are trying to pass these things inside the car class, right? I think we have discussed more than.
Yeah. So my question is, means how it is, how Python compiler identifies, means when you instance
Simple. It will try
class.
to call the no. It will try to call the object. An object belongs to a class variable. So internally, object will call the classes. This is how it will try to interpret.
So in the last example,
Yeah.
you are passing object 1 in class 2.
Yes. Yeah.
So class 2 will call init method of class 2, right?
Yeah, so here object 2, if I'm trying to pass, right?
Yeah.
So yes, it will be able to call like whatever object 2 is pointing to. So if object 2 is pointing to some classes C1 or C2, so it will try to call that one. Simple. So calling that class means simply that it will try to call the init method or whatever, like a method that you have defined over there, right?
Okay. Got it. I was confused with Java concept.
Yeah, so
Hello.
see, the people who are coming from Java, right? So
Yeah.
it will be a bit easier for them, I would say, because they already know this concept. They just have to correlate syntactically, I would say, right? So whatever we try to learn into a Java, so all these things are not available and available in a much easier way. It's available into a much
And
easier
one
fashion.
more question: does package concept present in this Python?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, it is possible. That's the reason. So you are able to install something, right? Whenever you install a Python packages, so what it install? It install the classes itself. You can try to create your own package as well. In a Java, basically, we try to create our own RAR file, right?
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
So in the similar way, here also you will be able to build your own packages. That's the reason you are able to use Python in your system. Right, so someone has already bundled it, someone has already created. When you install Anaconda, right? So if you go to Anaconda installation, it has installed a multiple packages basically for you. And even if you will go to a PyPy, so PyPy is a place where you will be able to get all the packages, right? So you will be able to see over here that every package is available. So every package, see 2 lakh projects, this much of release, and even you can try to write your own package, and even you can try to upload it over there, and other people will be just able to install it. So this is what people are doing in their internship project, basically. So they are creating the entire automated version of this entire package builder, package creator, and then they are trying to automate this entire machine learning applications as well as along with the deep learning applications. There we are trying to create our own packages itself, basically, so that you'll not have to write even a pandas code for the data manipulation. You will just call a single method, and all this single method is going to perform like almost 200 or 300 line of equivalent code, basically. So we are trying to create our own package in that case. Okay, So fine, guys, I think I'm done for today. So you can try to practice it as much as possible and try to like ask question maybe tomorrow, or maybe you can try to ask a question in a dark link session, a live dark link session. So, and again, yeah, everything is possible. It's not like nothing is impossible or possible if there is a programming. So for sure, all the flexibility you will be able to get. And going forward, yeah, I think it's a very early stage for you guys to to explore those things. And maybe you guys are confused, but yeah. So going forward, you will be able to understand and you will be able to implement. As of now, you just need a practice. So keep practicing each and everything that we are trying to discuss in a class, and try to explore as many like permutation combination as possible, basically. So this is where you will be able to learn it. I may discuss 5 different approaches in a class, but still there are another 100 approaches which is possible. So try to explore all of those 100 approaches. I try to do a permutation combination. Keep on writing a code, think through it, write a pseudo code. The way I used to give you a pseudo code, right? To create a class 1, then class 2, then class 3. Just try to understand the flow first of all, right? No need to do a coding. First of all, understand the flow and then try to convert those things into a coding. If you are able to understand a flow, people are able to write a code. Simple. So this is how you are supposed to break it down. Whenever you will try to solve some problem, even in those kind of cases, you have to break it down into a small bits and pieces, and then try to code bits and pieces. Everything is possible. Nothing is impossible, I would say. So fine, guys, with that, thank you so much, and see you again in your tomorrow's class. And I will try to continue with the same place where I have left today. So with that, thank you so much and have a great day ahead.